Well, welcome to the listeners to the Love at First Sight podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and of course we are lucky enough to have Amy Carr joining us today from Absolute Best People. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you on here.
Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. So today's episode is all about people. And that's inevitably what a company is.
Our favourite topic.
Our favourite topic. All companies are really just groups of people with a shared vision, and all companies seem to have the same difficulty in finding the right people. And tell us a little bit about your journey.
So I started in real estate at the ripe age of 18, as we usually do. Did many facets of it, stayed in the real estate space for the better part of 15 years before starting this business venture with my business partner. So we are both qualified coaches, have done it for a while, and wanted to add to the recruitment piece as well. So we wanted to do more than just the recruitment. So coaching inbuilt with the recruitment and going a little bit deeper into the psychometric testing and that sort of thing with people rather than just sort of taking a guess on someone. So digging a little bit deeper.
Digging a little bit deeper. That's great.
Exactly.
I know certainly working with you have a knack for putting great quality candidates forward,
Thank you.
Which is always the hardest part I'd feel for recruitment is that your product you don't super know always. Sometimes there's extenuating relationship there, but a lot of the time it's just a quick drop of, do you think these people fit with the personalities and the differences and putting them together the whole time? Almost like a matchmaking service.
It is my dream to be a It is my dream to be a matchmaker. So I found the ideal industry really, but it's taking a guess, and some people you get right, some people come as a shock, like they do sometimes, but it's half the fun of it, guessing the personalities.
Every day would be a different day, I'd guess.
Very different days. We get some interesting things.
I believe it. Tell me some of the interesting things. What's something that's sort of been, I didn't see that coming.
I hear a lot about marriages. I hear a lot about personal lives. So I think it's sort of, I become the therapist sometimes quite quickly, but people that open up that quickly, I'm always like, wow, what are we doing in an office if this is the first time I've met you? But I think it's good if we can make people feel comfortable and get their truest self so we know actually who we're working with. So hopefully I make people feel comfortable enough so they can be honest with what they're looking for and so we can place them the best. I think that's the biggest thing people sometimes put on a front and pretend to be, or not pretend, but, try and imposter what they think we want. And it's sort of breaking down those walls to see, what's actually under there and how are they going to fit in with the businesses. So it's interesting. Some funny stories, to say the least.
I believe it. I know certainly from day to day some of the things that happen in our organisation. It's just dealing with people. Yeah. And we're fortunate enough that we're dealing with in the community, in their homes, as much as in the community of the office. Mm-hmm. There's something different and exciting every day.
Exactly.
So you've done 15 years of real estate.
Yeah, I've seen some interesting things in houses as well. So you can't go back from some of the stuff you've seen, but I don't know, I think it makes you laugh. If you don't laugh, you cry. So it's
very
good.
True. Very true. With different leaders, you have different cultures or different visions per se. Mm-hmm. Some leaders are happy doing the day-to-day and enjoy it. Others are looking to grow. Mm-hmm. What do you find is your sort of 2 or 3, if you will, values or non-negotiables when you're looking to place someone into a high-performance team?
So I think someone that has clear vision for where they want to go. So for me, if I'm interviewing someone and I say, are you looking to go into sales, property management? They're either. I'm like, okay, we don't know where we're going. Yep. So I think someone with a clear vision of where they want to go, someone that's happy to put in the hours as well. So obviously real estate isn't a 9 to 5. Yep. And I think these days people are less sort of warm to working the longer hours, but it really that's what it does take, I think, to get up and running as an established agent. Yeah. So someone that's happy to do the longer hours, that's happy to work Saturdays, that, isn't looking to work from home 80% of the time in a people business. So someone with that attitude that they want to deal with people and that they actually enjoy people. I find it so funny that we work in a people business and go, oh, I can't stand people. I'm like, oh, we're in the wrong business. So someone that's happy and really likes to get into the community and that's got that good community feel. So they're sort of the traits that I look for.
Yeah, okay. I find certainly that more and more I'm seeing people not willing to give the sacrifice to get something. Yeah. And we often have a conversation around you're always trading something for something. Yeah. And if you're not prepared to do the hard work, or sacrifice the early nights and the neighbours on the couch at 5:30, then you probably aren't going to get to that next echelon of lifestyle, if you will, or income, if you will, or just sheer acknowledgement.
Yeah, and I think as well, like, you know, social media and TV shows around real estate have sort of painted this really glamorous picture, but no one's sort of shown you, well, what it actually takes to get to the glamour either. So people go, oh, I'm going to come in, I'm going to earn $1 million in my first 2 years and it's going to be all smooth sailing, and it's not. And I think people don't see the hard work that goes into building to becoming one of those agents either. So someone that's sort of happy to be guided by someone and that's happy to do the hard work.
Yeah.
To get there. I think people often, just want to jump to the end result rather than sort of going on the journey with it.
Yeah, and realising the hard work that it takes to get there.
The sacrifice and, the late nights and early mornings and So
without diving too far into the politics of Victoria, which I'm sure
we can't dive into that.
No, we probably can't go into that. What have you noticed in and around the working from home? I know Jacinta's currently discussing,
enforced work from home.
Yeah, enforced work from home, which I love when the government put conditions on private business. But from the really what was COVID, pandemic, or as you will, where we were all working from home, to now, what trends have you noticed have changed in and around businesses from working from home to not working from home and just people reaching out to you looking for the best talent?
So I think the hardest thing that I'm finding is there's such a disjoint between owners wanting people back into the office to build culture. So I think culture is this buzzword that everyone goes, I really want a good culture to work, as part of, but people then don't want to be in an office to create the culture that they want. So it's sort of finding a happy balance between, offices that will offer flexibility. And what does flexibility look like? So it might be, I need to pick my kids up at 3:00. I don't necessarily need to work from home, but I want that flexibility versus, I need 2 days at least from home. And I think people often say, oh, I'm more productive at home. I think in your life you're more productive because you feel like you're getting things done, but work, I'm not sure. And I think we got so used to it through COVID, it became the new normal and people were getting things done, but that's because we had to. So I think getting back into an office is actually really important to build back to what we had. I think we sort of forgot that for a while and sort of got lost in, well, I should have this and I can do it from home. But it's like, well, what pressure does it actually put on the office? So if I'm working from home 2 days, who's doing all the things in the office that you need to do being in an office? So I think just thinking about the wider team and what effects that it actually has on the team rather than just, well, it's easier for me to work from home. So sort of aligning that. And look, some directors are happy to have the teams working from home and I think remote work works well. I think it's then, okay, let's pair those that want to work remotely, they can work together, and getting the ones that want to be back in an office back together.
Yeah, we certainly have noticed that the full work from home really segregated the training and leading from the overall team. And there's certainly continual conversation of I'm more efficient at home, I don't have the distractions. However, I really agree with you that culture piece is hard to be able to establish when people aren't coming in.
And that's the thing. You sit with an empty office and it's sort of like it feels even emptier, especially in a big office as well, when you've only got a quarter of the team in there. And so it's sort of like, okay, what are we doing? Like, trying to rally the troops together. Whereas when you've got a full office and, when you do trainings and that sort of thing, everyone goes, oh, this is so good. We're all together. It's like we could have this every day. Like think of how much we could be doing every day if we were all together. So I think it's important to sort of get back into the swing of things. And look, I'm all for flexibility and, letting people sort of, if they're doing their job, great, like we can all have flexibility. But it is also that, again, that give and take. So the demands of, I need this, I think it's slowly going to become a thing of the past as well. Because again, we're in the people business, and if you're not wanting to be around people,
might be the wrong industry.
Yeah.
There's certainly some questions around the leadership side of that and how is that leading and how they're trending, because often we're seeing people vote for what's best for them and not necessarily what's best for the company.
Yes.
And companies need different leadership strategies and leaders at different times in their cycle. I think there is certainly a conversation around leadership as the end-all and be-all. I certainly take more of a broad approach where we're all leaders. There is a director who gives direction, but the leadership comes from within. Are you noticing that there is a different leadership style and leading people who are working from home?
I think it takes it's dependent, I guess, on where the office is in their cycle. So, some that have had massive growth sort of need more of that nurture where, an office that's really, wanting to grow and build, they sort of need someone to take the reins and say, right, this is what we're doing. We're going hard at these sort of things. But I think it's hard to lead someone when you don't actually have them in person with you. It's hard to sort of build that personal relationship and, how can I actually help you and is there anything you need? It's easier for people to hide from behind computers. Even on Zooms, doing one-on-ones on Zooms, you don't get what you get when you're in person either. So I think it's at the very least, if you're doing one-on-ones as a leader, to do them in person at the very least, because otherwise you're sort of missing out on parts of your team and what they're really feeling.
Yeah, I agree with that. I find that certainly from a mental or a mental game, or mental fitness or mental health, whichever you refer to it as, I do notice that in person, you can calibrate on so many different aspects, unconsciously and consciously, and you can see someone walk into the kitchen to grab a coffee and you can calibrate very quickly the whole being. Well, they might not be having a great day. We're working with them on screen. You're limited to your ability to calibrate. The makeup, the face, the smile, 20 minutes and we're off, and they can then, you're not really aware of where they are and being isolated. And let's be honest, a lot of people during the day are isolated at home, or they have additional strains from family members, can make it very hard to be able to calibrate and lead those people.
And I think as well, we're all a bit more comfortable at home and that sort of thing. So I think being able to really open up, I think once you come into the office, you get to be sort of your true self. You don't have to worry about, are the dishes done? Is the washing being done? You can actually go to work.
Dishes and washing.
I know, I don't do that. That's not a me job. I just think you can actually be yourself and come to work to do your job and get the best out of people that way.
Yeah, great. And so when you talk about leadership, do you think leadership is a singular person that just stands in a God formation or a king formation and this is how it is? Or how do you, the nominalisation of the word leadership, when we talk about it for you, what does leadership mean? When you represent leadership, what is that for you?
For me, I think everyone's a leader. So I think having the dictatorial sort of person that's standing at the table going, this is what we're doing, it's a pretty archaic way to lead. And I just don't think it works in today's generation. I think we've changed. We've moved away from that really I need to be told what to do. People want to feel like they're leading their own ship, I think. So I guess empowering our staff to be able to lead is the most important thing from a leadership perspective. So someone that's at the top, giving their staff the power to be able to feel like they can make decisions that, might not be the status quo, and that's okay. They can actually run with it. They can try new things and let them lead, because really, within especially sales businesses, they are sort of running their own business within the business as well. So giving them that freedom and power to say, run with it, try it, let them, I think we all as leaders have this fear of well, what if it fails? And then we almost hold them back and I guess don't let them fly with what could be, because we go, oh no, but it doesn't fit into where we're going. I think giving them the power to try some new things, that's the most important thing from a leadership to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. And certainly allowing them to have the responsibility of something new as well. It gives that purpose for us.
I think it also lets some people that maybe we didn't look at in leadership positions to sort of come to the top as well. And, it might be people that we hadn't looked at because they had come from a different industry. They may be younger, they may be, at different points in their career, but they'll do something and you go, wow, I didn't expect that, but it's really good. Let's sort of run with this and how can we build them more?
They do say you become similar or the fifth of the 5 closest people you're around. So if you hang out with 5 alcoholics, you become the 6th alcoholic.
If you lay with dogs, you catch fleas or whatever it
certainly
is.
I was told that as a child. But I suppose in your experience of working with so many different businesses and specifically real estate businesses, what mistakes do you see? And that's probably that meta position from being the external consultant.
Yep.
What do you see business leaders doing over and over again that our listeners might be able to go, oh, I do that, or I'm aware of that? And what would you see as a solution to some of those mistakes that you see them repeating?
Look, I think micromanagement is a big one. And it's sort of, I guess it stems from wanting the best from your staff. So you almost sweep in and go, oh, I'll just fix it or I'll do it. And we don't. Like, we're scared to let people fail, I think, is a big one. So the micromanagement, people don't want to feel micromanaged either. You know, we hire staff that are capable. We've got to let them do their job. Yeah, get out of the way and just let them do their job. Yeah. So I think for me, that's the biggest one. And they go, you know, I know all the runnings of my business and this and that. You shouldn't. There should be people that just do the jobs. You know, you tick it off at the end of the day. Yeah. If you have every understanding of every facet, you're probably spread too thin. So I think having business owners and directors really focused on, you know, the important stuff and let other people run their own things is super important, because you see it and then they're stretched and they're, you know, stressed that nothing's working and that sort of thing. It's like, well, unfortunately, we can't do everything. I think we run businesses now that are so large and there's so many moving parts, to stay across everything is impossible. So to have good leaders that you trust and, you know, you don't have to micromanage is important. And if you as a business owner feel like you can't do that, then it's time to have a look at who's within the business. Can step up and run that part of it for you. Can either step up or, you know, who can we bring in to actually do that for us? So I think that's really important.
How important is job descriptions and accountability?
Like, so important, because I think if we don't have that, how can we manage people to it? They're never going to meet expectation because they don't know what the expectation is for them. So I think having really clear expectations of your leaders as well is just as important. And then, you know, we all go home and we go, oh, like, I wish they were doing this and that. And it's like, did you actually tell them that's what you needed? No. Okay, like that's might be where we're failing.
Yeah, certainly what I notice as well is the lack of communication both ways.
Yes.
We internalise things and, this is the well, sit down and have a frank conversation. Do you see that there's a lot of avoidance to conflict now more than ever?
100%. And I think as well, like us usually as salespeople and that sort of thing, we love like the gratification. So we like the niceties, but we actually don't like having the hard conversations. Yeah. So we sort of have these two avoidants that are tiptoeing around the conversation. And it's like, if we actually just had a frank, quick conversation, got it over and done with, because 9 times out of 10, both people are feeling it. So I'm internalizing that something's not being done. The other person's internalizing that, well, why are they micromanaging? You know, why are they not just letting me run with it? It's like, if we actually just had an open conversation, this is what I need from you, this is what you need from me, done. Yeah. So it's sort of, I guess, hard conversations are hard for a reason. They're not nice, but the more you have them, you desensitize yourself to them. So
I read a great book on that called Radical Candor. Have you ever read the book?
No, I haven't.
Great book on just how to have a straight up conversation and the benefits of it coming through that.
Yeah. And I think as well, like, in all facets of life, it's learning to have those hard conversations. And the more you have them, the more you sort of say, it wasn't that bad. If I had have actually just had this 6 months ago, we would have probably been in a better position. But having them quicker, I think, is the biggest thing.
Yeah. Do you find that there are any ways, or is it even possible to have those more frank conversations, if you will, accountability and support as a triangle inside of an organisation?
I think you can. I think almost having multiple people across certain things, I think, helps it as well. So it sort of brings down the pressure on its one-to-one. If we can sort of work as a group and be able to have open conversations, I find that works better as well, because then it's sort of not me ganging up on you or you ganging up on me. It's an open discussion of this is what I need. And I think as well, like, not making things so formal. Like, we can go for coffee, we can have a conversation and just say, look, you know, this is what we need as a group, this is what we're going to do and put in place. And we're going to circle back to it each month. How are we going? Let's hold ourselves accountable to it from, you know, management all the way down. Yeah. And I think setting the standards as well is super important. So everyone in the team knows, well, what standards are, you know, above and below the line, what are we accepting and what are we not tolerating as a team?
Absolutely. Have you noticed that there's any one particular thing that is the challenge for a leader in leading a team in today's environment?
I think...
Loaded question, I know. But,
I was like,
you know, where do we go with that?
Yeah, there's a list of things. I think the biggest thing after COVID, people don't want to be told what to do. Yeah. That's the shift that you can see it. People would really strictly monitored. And I think there is that, call it what you want, PTSD or whatever it is, but that I just don't want to be told what to do, that really regimented. So I think from a leader, which, probably 5-10 years ago could say, this is what I need, this is how I want it done, and it was not blinked at, now you sort of have to somewhat tiptoe around it to not be that, authoritarian, this is what we need, this is how we're doing it, because people just don't respond to it. Yeah. And, unfortunately in our industry, there's so many options for people to go to, and, people are constantly being tempted with things and, we'll get you over for this and that. You border on, well, I want to keep everyone happy, but I also need this out of my business. Yeah. So it's working to sort of, I guess, into their personalities. Some people you can just have the hard conversations with and that's their personality and they're fine with it. But a lot of the time people don't want to feel like they're being told what to do anymore.
Yeah. Certainly.
Have you found that?
Certainly found that. Noticing more and more just the understanding of there is a leadership or there is somebody who has to make the hard decisions. Yeah. And that people are all comfortable with wanting to do it their way until it goes wrong.
Yes.
And often they don't understand the why and feel that they are doing the what or the how to their capacity without seeing the whole picture.
Yeah.
And things will be changed. And when you're made aware of that from a leadership point of view, you're like, okay, you've framed their understanding of why it was being done could be for something completely different, which serves them.
Yeah.
However, without understanding that whole picture, and it's always when it goes wrong.
Yes.
And then it comes and gets escalated to the management team or
too
the leadership
hard,
team.
Too hard. This is on you
now. You do it
now.
and you're like, well, this is why we put these steps in place so that we were able to support you better when it got to this.
Yeah. And I think also people that want to lead, they actually have to be prepared for if it goes wrong, it's on you. Yeah. So are you actually willing to go the whole way, and if it does go wrong, you can wear that as well? And very few people will say yes. And I think that shows true leaders that they go, if it all goes up, then that's on me, but that's okay. Yeah. I think they're the most sort of inspiring leaders that are happy to take the risks that, we can fail and we can fail 100 times, but we'll get it one time and that's all we need to do. So they're the sort of leaders that I look at and go, that's what I want to do, and try new things and be prepared for things to go wrong, go wrong every day. Yeah.
So there is a number of things, and I'm sort of talking with my hands a little bit, which I suppose we can do freely. Though my question really is, there's a lot of conversations around compliance exhaustion and team burnout.
Yep.
And I've pondered on this and sat on this, and I noticed that when I look back on my father's era of doing real estate way back BC, being before COVID, not before Christ himself, in the 70s, 80s, 90s and 2000s, before the introduction of mobile phones and emails on your phone, I found that certainly when you left, a lot of people wouldn't try and communicate with you.
Yeah, it was in business hours.
It was business hours. And then slowly, those business hours have crept and crept and crept.
Yeah.
But on top of that, we're seeing clients really employ agents for speed to response rather than for quality and understanding of the role.
Yeah.
What are you noticing, or what have you seen as the percentage? Because there is a lot of conversation. I haven't seen the data, but certainly I know looking for the right team takes a lot longer now than it ever did.
Massive.
What is the feedback you're hearing of people leaving the industry, both in sales and property management, and what's going on in that front?
I would say definitely property management. I'm seeing it more and more. People that sort of just said, I can't do it anymore. The expectation is so great. And it is, owners wanting responses within an hour where, we could have had a day or two to respond to it. They now want responses in an hour, or, I tried them on the phone and they didn't pick up. They were probably doing 6, opens or whatever they were doing. They hadn't got back to them yet. And it's this pressure of, if they don't have a response, they're going to pull the management. And so people sort of carry that. They're, writing emails at 10 o'clock at night. And, there is that expectation that, through COVID, I think we became pretty blurred with where's the boundaries with it, because we were navigating so many things. We're sort of, it's okay to respond to an email at 10 o'clock because what else was I doing? where now owners sort of have had that, they still expect that. And it's like we're in a completely different world, but there is still that expectation. It's the same with sales. You know, we've got people ringing agents at 11 o'clock at night wanting to talk about their properties, and that never happened. So, of course, the burnout's going to be more. But I think if I look at some of the top agents, they have really good self-discipline with what they're going to tolerate, and they set the expectations with clients quite early. Like, you know, this is when I'm available, and they'll always have longer hours than a 9 to 5, but they certainly will say, you know, if it's after 9 p.m., I'll respond in the morning. And I think for people as well, setting like, you know, there's great things. We can now time our emails when they go. Don't send, like you can do emails at 10 o'clock at night if you want to, but send them in the morning. So then owners sort of get the expectation, okay, if I respond, like if I send that email, I'm not going to get the response at 10 o'clock at night. Sure. I'm going to get it in the mornings. But I think probably, you know, 2 or 3 in 10 property managers now are talking about getting out of the industry. You know, the life cycle of property managers now 9 months.
Yeah. Really? 9 months in an agency?
In an agency.
Wow.
So it's hard, and it's finding, you know, how can we make it easier for them? Can we get them field staff? Can we get them VAs to help with things? But I think the human expectation from the clients has just far exceeded anything that sort of we could have anticipated, I think.
Yeah. Do you put that down to an overall community, or do you put that down to a leadership piece?
I think as a community, to be honest, because even, you know, you go to retail, you find people just want things quicker and quicker. They, you know, are quicker to complain and, you know, expect things for a lot less. Whereas, you know, 10 years ago, it was just so different.
You know, that's a really interesting point. And you've just refreshed my thought on, I was having a conversation with a curtain supplier who's second generation. Yeah. And he was in my office, and he actually had no feed on his property and asked if he could put some sheep on our farm. And we were chatting about the way in which the community's going. And he said, you know, when Dad was doing curtains, they would come in and they'd choose a green colour. Yeah. And so Dad would order the green colour, and if that green colour wasn't available, he would get the closest match and he would go and hang it in their home. Yeah. And they'd say, oh, that's not the green colour I ordered. And he said, look, that green colour wasn't available, so I got you the closest, and people would turn around and go, okay, great.
Thank you.
They'd pay, thank you. I've got my curtains. Yes. And we'd move along. Yep. He said, where now, if it isn't the exact, and often it is the same as the sample, but it's on a larger screen, and there's a little mark, and we've just become so finicky about the smallest details that it's putting that extra pressure, and he's now considering leaving curtains and going in and running livestock. I told him it's a harder gig.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not sure if that's the easier option, but it's just, I think the expectation that society has, and I think like social media plays a big part, where this perception that everything is perfect and we all live in these like exceptional houses and everything looks a certain way and we all, you know, dress a certain way, I think sets us up for this really unrealistic expectation of ourselves as well. Yeah. So, you know, how quickly can I do something? Well, you know, Joe down the road responded to me in 20 minutes or something. What if they take management to there? I've got to keep up. And it is this constantly chasing yourself and keeping up with the Joneses, which has now crept into work and how we do things and just day to day. Even like I've moved to the country and ordering a coffee, which you come from Melbourne and everything's pretty quick, and you go to the country and it's a nicer way, but you know, 2 minutes I'm like, where is it? Yeah. Where do I have to be? It doesn't actually, it's so irrelevant, but you get into this cycle of everything has to be quicker and, you know, easy and readily available. Yeah. And it's like, actually get real. Like this is not important in the scheme of things of what's going on in the world. Yeah,
slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Exactly.
Right? We're just in this churn of now. And I think salespeople especially, it's such a competitive industry now that they're just gone to that faster. I did hear a statistic that the response as an average is from a SMS day or night 30 seconds, which is just
insane.
It's just a whole level of anxiety that we're pushing ourselves.
Yeah, and I think that's why we have this, you know, mental burnout, and people talk about mental health so much more because there's just so much pressure now to keep up with it. And I think, you know, our parents talk, you know, things were, you know, we did all of this in these days, and it's like, well, that's great, but you had a computer that you turned off or a typewriter, and then you could go home and get everything done. And it's just a different level of work. I don't think it's sort of different, but it's a different level for sure.
I don't know how my dad carried his horse to school. And had to put his shoes on the horse so he
and the
didn't get
backpack,
cold feet
but-
on the way uphill
Oh
both
my
ways to
gosh.
school. But certainly it is. It's a
Yeah.
different time.
And I think getting people to move with the times as well is like, it's hard. People want to call and then other people want to text, and it's sort of juggling this. Well, how do people want to be communicated with as well?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because once upon a time there was the house
There was
phone
only call.
and there was letters.
Yeah.
And we had a salesperson who was, I don't know what generation you would call, but in their 20s,
Yep.
and said that in his friendship group, he would be running different conversations with the same person across 4 or 5 platforms. And that's just the way that
That's how they do
are
it.
communicating now.
Yeah.
So
They don't even communicate through phone numbers. It's sort of on
Yeah.
Snapchat or Instagram or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So you've got, now people DMing you about buying a property. It's like, when have we ever have to navigate that? But so much more happens online now. So it's sort of making sure that your agents are across all social media platforms, as well as their mobile number, as well as, calls and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think for agents that have been in it for a while, that adjustment is hard. And, these are established good agents that
Yeah.
now have to sort of relearn how they've been doing things for the last 40 years.
Yeah.
Like, it's definitely a challenge.
Yeah, I did have a conversation with an established agent many moons ago as I was looking for mentors, and he'd been in the industry for 30 odd years. And I said, what's your keys of success? He goes, I haven't done 30 years of real estate. I've done 30 lots of 12 months. You have to reinvent yourself every 12 months.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the gapping becomes so great that you can't keep up.
You can't keep up. And that's the thing. I think you need people in your team as well that are happy to be fluid with it and that are happy to make the changes. Otherwise, they do get left behind, unfortunately. And it's us as a society, if you don't sort of embrace the things that are coming in, AI is the big thing at the moment.
Yeah.
But businesses that don't sort of incorporate it are getting so far left behind because the speed of which it can do things at is so far greater than what humans can do.
Yeah.
They are getting left behind.
Very, very interesting insights, and thanks, Amy. It is so lovely to actually meet you in person. We do a lot on the telephone for the longest of time.
For a conversation where we go, it's hard to do things online. I do work remotely, so it's nice to be back in person.
There you go. Recruiting the right people into the business.
Yep.
I mean, I look back on my father's career, and he would leave early and get home late.
Yep.
And that was really the way that you got ahead, is you'd sacrifice and you'd hustle. But now moving into the new realm, we have young people that really want to be that $1 million agent, want the bling, want the blang, and certainly don't understand that hustle. And we also have experienced agents now looking to try and reshape the way in which they have to be presented in the marketplace. What would be your advice, or what do you think is required where the society is now moving to more of that work-life balance, work from home, don't work from home?
Yeah.
We have technology coming out. AI is the new, buzzword. What for someone that's hungry, is it even possible to have a work-life balance and be a high-performing agent? And if you are a high-performing agent, how is it that you're able to manage it? Are you built differently, or how is it that you're able to be a high-performing agent in the current marketplace with so many moving parts?
It's such a broad question. I think if I look at agents that have done this and performed really highly for a long period of time, a lot of them have their non-negotiables. So it might be, I'm going to the gym from 5 to 6, that's my time. There's no calls, there's nothing, that's just for me. That have really good discipline throughout the day as well. So if it's, prospecting, this is when I do prospecting. If it's, opens, this is when I'm doing them. I think people that are structured, it makes it easier to keep running at a high level for a long time. And I think, it's for so long. And I think the older generation, it was sort of like, oh, there's no stepping away from it. I have a family commitment. Well, why would you go to that? You've got work. Whereas in today's society, I think we have to sort of embrace, if someone has a family commitment, that's actually okay.
Yeah.
But, are you going to be able to make up that time? And it's sort of making the decisions, if I go without, what's the sacrifice for? And I think the younger generation have to look at it, is the sacrifice of, nights out with your friends or, lunches or whatever it might be, is that worth the outcome for you? And if it's not, that's okay. Yeah. But you have to make that decision. And I think if we look at anyone that's sort of done really well in their career, there's not come a time where they haven't sacrificed something. So whether it's sleep, whether it's, time with their friends, family, whatever it is, you do have to make a sacrifice somewhere. And it's working out how much you're willing to sacrifice to get to where you want to be. So I think, unfortunately, there does have to be some sacrifice, but it's how much are you willing to take for how long, basically. So I think the more sacrifice you make early days, the quicker you're going to get to the destination, or you're going to realize this is actually not for me. Like, I can't run at this pace. Yeah. And I think some people can do it better than others. I think some people that have that natural discipline that, if they say, I'm doing this, they do it. There's not sort of that question, whereas probably the 80% of people can deviate on that, I'm going to start the diet tomorrow, and then it's like, go out for lunch. So it's sort of finding those people that are super disciplined with themselves to keep going.
Discipline certainly is the strength over motivation, right?
100%.
When your motivation decreases, the discipline is what gets us there.
And that's the thing. You look at sort of someone with exceptional discipline versus someone that's got the natural skill. Discipline's going to win every time because you usually find the people that are that sort of naturally skilled, they haven't actually had to work that hard for it. And so it's easier to go, that's too hard. Whereas the people that are disciplined, it might take them a little bit longer, but they're going to get there and stay there.
What do you think about clarity in your goals?
I think having really clear goals, but also ascertainable goals. So I think people go, right, I want to make $1 million this year. But if you're starting from 100 GCI to $1 million, that's a huge, huge gap. Yeah. So it's sort of making smaller goals to be able to say, right, okay, I get that. I've marked it off. We're on to the next one. So having, a 1 year and a 5 year goal, super important because then you can sort of get the quick wins as well as the bigger win as well.
Yeah, of course. We notice that as well. I see a lot of people, they set their goals and they don't get those fast feedback because there's just too big a steps in between them. Yeah. And we can lose motivation because the disciplines aren't there.
Yeah. And I think us as humans, we need that sort of yes, I've ticked that off onto the next thing. And when it's sort of going to take you 5 years, it's a long time to not have the quick wins as well. So it takes a very disciplined person to have that big goal and stick to it. But I think having the smaller ones as well, you're then like, right, I'm doing something, it's all going in the right way.
Yeah, that's great. So being in the industry of people, whether it be real estate or just recruitment, what do you think is the difference between hiring the top talent or the best talent, the best people, as you do, and necessarily not? Because there are times when people are the best talent for your business, and then they may not be at a period of time in their life as well. Yeah. And that's a leadership piece, I believe. But what do you see is the struggle for business leaders to be able to hire?
Yeah, I think it depends where you are in the cycle. So sometimes people get not necessarily the wrong people, but maybe the wrong people for their business when they're having to hire out of desperation. So I've just had 2 PMs quit. We've got to fill it quickly. That's sometimes when we can put the wrong people into the business because on paper they tick they've done this, they'll be able to do it. Yeah. But are they the right person in our business? Yeah. No. They're coming in, they're completely wanting the different things and, their values don't align with ours. So I think people, when they're having to hire out of desperation, that's sometimes when we can go wrong. When we're really clear on, this is how we want to grow, we can have conversations with people, we can start building a pipeline. Yeah. And then when it does come time to hire, we've got that pipeline built of people that we say, right, they're really good for our business, they're fitting in with it. And I think it's important to have open conversations with people. As business owners, we should be meeting with people in the market. You might not need to hire now, but you will. Yeah. So who are these good people? Can we build relationships with them? And likewise, that person might not be looking for a move now, but in 6 months' time when they've, had a really bad couple of months and they say, right, it's time to make a move, who are they coming to? Yeah. So it's building that pipeline, I think, of strong people and talent. So when we're not having to hire out of desperation, because I think that's when things go wrong.
Hey, you're noticing, certainly from my point of view, and it could just be because of my position changing in the organisation as it has over tenure, but I'm noticing now more and more recruitment companies being the place to find talent, where once upon a time we'd run an ad on Seek, we'd sort the resumes and we would complete the interview process, where I'm noticing now more and more that talent is going to recruitment And there's sort of that piece. Is that and what do you think? And agencies or companies are going to recruitment.
Yeah.
What are you noticing or finding that's the reason behind that, or am I just seeing it in a different light? It's always been there, or
no, I definitely think it is picking up. I think having the security from using a recruitment company. So I've got to guarantee that if anything happens with that candidate, there will be a replacement. I think when agencies are hiring themselves, like it's super expensive as well from a business point of view. So it's definitely not, a less expensive sort of exercise. It can be just as expensive. And then, it could be 3 months down the track, the person falls out and then we're back at square one. We've put all this money into the person. And then likewise from the candidate's point of view, they've got someone to then negotiate on their behalf. So, I think people are really, worried to talk about money. I think that's a big thing.
Yeah.
And that's why they use sort of a recruitment company that can negotiate for them, can make sure, do you know this business? How do they operate? Are they good operators? Do you think I'm going to have a good experience here? Like I have people ring me and they say, do you know this company? And it may be that they've applied directly to them, but, do you know much about them? People want that sort of, I guess the security and understanding of how they operated as a business. And we as recruitment companies need that. We need that understanding of, well, how does a business run? And for me, I'm happy not to work with everyone because I think we as people have to, swallow our ego sometimes and say, I'm not for everyone. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And not everyone's for us. And, there are businesses that maybe I wouldn't feel comfortable putting someone into. And likewise, they might not feel comfortable using a recruiter. So I think it's important to sort of be honest. But I think that's why it's sort of those hard conversations, the negotiations and that sort of thing, sometimes it's easy to have a third party involved.
Yeah, to assist with it.
Yeah.
And that's almost that it's the same thing in the industry. You could manage your property or sell your home yourself.
Exactly.
But having someone there to support both sides and get the best outcome.
Yep.
Because when we're employing, I often say to people, certainly they have the skill, but I have to make sure, one, they fit into the culture of the office.
Yeah.
They have to fit into the culture of the community in which that office is located.
Yes.
Because our job is to support them in having their best career.
Yeah.
Which brings me to skills or attitude?
Attitude every time.
Attitude
I'm a big hire of attitude because I think you can't change someone's attitude. I think we like to think that we can, but I don't think we can truly change someone's attitude. Whereas skills, we can upskill people.
Yeah.
There's so many trainers in the industry. There's endless things online and there's so much that people can learn.
Yeah.
But can we change their attitudes of how they come to work, how they show up? And I think it affects the wider business as well. You've got one person that comes in and they're like, ugh, don't want to be here. It's poisoning the team from within, and you try so hard to build this culture of people that want to come, and all it takes is one. And I think we've all made that mistake where you hire the wrong one and you're like, I can just see it going down.
Yeah.
So I think attitude over skill. Not to say that we're getting people that have never done this before in and come into management, but there definitely has to be a balance. But attitude, I think, over skill each time.
Yeah.
What about you?
Look, I certainly come from an attitude point of view. I also look into values because realising that being married was going to be the largest decision I ever made, I did a lot of reading on what made a successful partnership.
Yep.
And it wasn't having hobbies in common, it wasn't having similar families, it all came down to having the same values.
Yeah.
And inevitably that's gave me some insight into looking at people's values.
Yeah.
And first I sort of look for values, that we are aligned on values.
Yeah.
And then I look at attitude, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think as well, the value proposition comes to, is that you look at it in relationships. Is someone going to leave me because the next best thing comes along, or do I have someone that's really in this for the long run? And it's so similar, business relationships as well as personal relationships. You look for the people that do have tenure at places that sort of they can tell you what they want, and if we can facilitate that, then that's the ideal.
Yeah.
Not the people that sort of jump from office to office for, a menial amount. And look, I think we live in a society where money talks, cost of living, and that's sort of what people are talking about. But the person that jumps for $1,000 here and there are always going to be the ones that leave you as well. So,
and if they're willing to come for it, they're willing to leave
exactly.
for it. And often they don't even take the time to slow down and go, hang on a second, after tax, plus travel, plus car parking, there's nothing in this.
There's actually nothing in it. Or it's, we're talking about the better part of $15 a week or something like that. We sort of we just won't have a coffee 2 days in a row and we'll be fine.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that leads me to the question, do you think success is something that can be trained? Or do you think that's an attitude that you've developed? Or how do you think people, because with such a large industry, we have such a small percentage of people that are so heavily successful. The majority of us probably just get to where we get to. And I know before I had children, my disciplines were very different. Now having the kids has certainly seen my disciplines change. With success in itself, and so let's just talk about real estate, so we're a little bit specific. We've got two aspects. We've got property management and you've got the sales side of it. Do you think that the success in that can be a learned and a trained, or is that something...
I think
innate?
someone really does have to have it within them to a degree, and it's the drive. So what actually drives them, and also what does success look like to someone? So success for someone could be, I woke up today, I went to work, I ticked off my list and that's it. And that's a successful day for me, where you've got these really high performers that are like, success looks like, 20 or 30 sales a month, and I'm doing that year on year. So it's also looking at what success is for people and, what it looks like for me might not be for what it looks like for you. So I think it's important in, I guess, establishing, what does success look like for someone? And
their why.
And then their why. And then also, does that align with the business? So where our success is coming from, does that align with theirs? So
when hiring, and I suppose I would hate to think, but you must spend a lot of time in interviews, day in, day out. Is there, knowing that you are looking for attitudes and certainly some intrinsic part of values and matchmaking, the Cupid, before you shoot your arrow, I suppose, do you find the candidates and then you find the company, or are you often working with the company and then you're reaching out to different candidates? How do you sort of put that together?
Marry it together. A lot of the time we'll be working with companies in the background, so helping build their teams rather than the sort of find a candidate, find the job. It does come like time to time. So we obviously do marketing and get jobs in and that sort of thing, but mostly we'll be trying to build the teams in the background. So once we do see good people, I can say, hey, I've met this person. I think they could be good here or there, or it might be in 3 months' time or whatever it might be, but working with companies to help grow their team rather than just backfilling and replacing.
Yeah, okay. And so when you start working with those companies, obviously we're not for everyone, what would be the red flags that you're talking to a manager or a leader of an organisation? What would be something that is a red flag for you that you see in a leader that you may have come across in the past that you're like, oh, this might not be the right fit.
This might not be the right fit.
This might not be somewhere I can see I can place the appropriate candidates for a longevity or that aligns with you.
So I think how a manager speaks about their staff is super important. I think that's a telltale sign of how they're actually going to treat them within the business. So, how they speak about them to external people is a big telltale sign. Also, when there's been a lot of churn within the business, but for no reason, no reason, oh, I'm not sure, we just can't fill that seat, or I'm not sure, this is what they, this is why it keeps happening. That can sometimes be a red flag. Also, referring back to, well, this is the amount of work they were able to do 10 years ago, so it should be this now. For me, that's a big telltale sign of, like, property management especially. It was a lot easier 10 years ago because we could manage bigger portfolios because there wasn't, all these rules and regulations around it. I don't think they can do what they were doing 10 years ago today. Like, I just don't think it's actually possible. So someone that sort of moved with the times, and they're probably the main ones. Also someone that bangs on about, we've got great culture and we've got this and we've got that. And sometimes it's like there's the shiny exterior and then you walk through the front door and it's on fire. Like you find a lot in those ones. So someone that's also happy to be honest about, like, we're doing all the right things. It's not 100%, but we're getting there. That's happy to admit that it's not perfect, I think that's a green flag for me.
Is there any business that you've worked with that's perfect?
No, never.
Not even
we get close, but I think there's always room. And I think knowing that there's room to improve as well is super important.
I think that's that mindset of how do we improve? How are we going to do it better?
If you're not constantly looking to improve, you're going to get left behind. And it's having that sort of forward thinking, okay, well, now what can we do better? I think we're great in this aspect. What else can we pick at?
Is that the trait, or is there another trait that you see that is the biggest green flag when working with someone that will deem the success of that organisation?
I think having, like, very pinpoint clarity on where they want to go and how they want to get there. So, people often say, I want to grow my sales team. Great. To what number? I don't know. We just want more.
Yeah.
We need to finite, okay, how are we going to get there? So is it bringing on 2 people? Is it bringing on 5 people? What GCI do we want to be writing? It's really pinpointing where's the sweet spot and how we're going to get there rather than just, this sweeping statement of I want to grow. Well, we all want to grow. It's business. Yeah. But, do you have clear vision on how we're going to get there? Are you happy to take a couple of risks? So not everyone's going to stick also. So we're happy to take, a few punts on people that might not be the front runner, but we're still going to get some good longevity out of them.
Absolutely.
Are we happy to work with those? You know, someone that's happy to sort of take a few risks to get to that next level.
Yeah, to put it out there to have a go.
Yeah,
great. So people being people, and we've talked about a lot of how we place them in.
Yeah.
What inside an organisation, and certainly coming from a coaching background, we both are lucky enough to share in that.
Yeah.
What do you see is the new way in which companies are moving for career progression, for training, in supporting their team with mental fitness or mental health, how it sits? What are some of those trends that you're noticing in organisations working across the industry of real estate and other industries that you are able to work within? What are you noticing on that front?
I'm noticing a lot more companies employing EAPs. So, to have that
EAP?
EAP, so the Employee Assistance Program. Okay. So having people that they can reach out to if they're not feeling so great or, having those next steps. So I think we as leaders often think that we can fix everyone's problems, but most of us aren't therapists. We're not trained in that. And so it's sort of having someone that actually is trained in that can assist their staff, I think is a really good thing.
Yeah.
I think having lots more training, and not just real estate training, but, around mental health. How can we, do better, be better people? I think having different trainers come in is so exciting because I think for the longest time we had the same trainers that came in and spoke about the same things, and they're great. So it's no disrespect to them, but having, some new people come in and talk to us about different things and different ways of doing it, I think is really exciting. And I think it just keeps driving people to then stay in it and go, okay, they've come from, X and they're now doing Y. That's going to drive me. Yeah. I think having leaders that have open conversations with their staff as well as where do you want to go? What do you want to achieve in the next 3 to 5 years? Can we help you with that? So it could be, right, I want to buy a property. Great. How are you going to do that? We work in the field of real estate. Yeah. That's the one thing we can help them with is, putting the steps in place, putting them in touch with the right people to be able to take those next steps in their career. It could be, I want to move into management. Great. Well, we've got a coach. They're going to help you with management, or I can help you and that sort of thing. So I think sitting down with each employee and seeing where they want to go. Some people might say, I'm actually really happy with where I am. I just want to come to work and do my job, also fine. Yeah. But making sure that the ones that do want that next steps and the growth, that they are facilitated.
And with that, I mean, it's a whole new role. The businesses need to be profitable if you're continuing putting in this support for the team. How much of it is in individual team person's shift in mindset or responsibility, and how much of it's on the company, and how much of it is shared? Is there one specific thing that you notice is a mindset shift for a team member that will help them be more successful in that realm?
I think people that are actually willing to take on training, I think for, people that have been in it for a long time, they go, well, I know everything. Yeah. Or, I know this. I think that's when we become stunted, and that can sometimes cause divides in teams when those people go, well, I'm not coming to training. I've done it. And it's like, great, but there may be something new that you take away from it. Yeah. Or just show up for the younger staff who actually get a lot out of the training that maybe haven't had it. Yeah. I think that can sometimes halt the growth of the team when you've got those people that go, well, I'm just not coming to it. Then it sets the standard for the rest of the team to go, oh, well, why would I go to it? If it's the attitude of, I think once we get to a point where we go, well, I can't learn anymore. Yeah. What are we doing? Yeah.
And so where you touch on that why and that training, you're seeing those traits inside of leaders and inside of organisations and people putting, I think you refer to EAP, an EAP, putting that into these organisations. Are you seeing that is retaining team members longer, or are you seeing it just increasing their experience and you're still getting that churn of 9 months in property management or... what's a long tenure in an organisation?
Look, I think, which is crazy, but sort of you look at 2 years and you go, oh, they've been there a little while, which back in the day was like, oh, it's a short stint.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
just no one moved.
Yeah.
So I think, look, it definitely is retaining. To what extent we probably need to look at like stats over a longer period of time. But I definitely think employers that do offer the training, the development, the ones that are happy to put into their people, I think people are staying longer. I think people want to stay at the same place for as long as they can.
Yeah.
People have those intentions, but it's sort of like, can they facilitate their growth? Are they in an organisation that's actually big enough for their career progression as well? So, they may be at an amazing office that they love, but there's actually no room to grow.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, those ones are the hardest, where they go, I actually love where I work, but for me, there's no room to grow.
Yeah.
They have to take that next step. So it's making sure that when they come over, or, if they're going somewhere else, are we going to be able to retain them because they've had such a good experience somewhere? What can we offer that sort of offers a bit more?
And if I was one of those candidates where I've, as a junior salesperson or a junior property manager, and I've maybe done, if 2 years is a long stint, call it 3 years with someone, and the department head is the director or the sales manager is the director, and there's no real career progression. What advice would you give me as someone coming to you for your professional services of recruitment for setting myself up in the right organisation for my career progression?
Yeah, so I think have a really clear understanding of what brands you align to, brand being like office specific, but, get out in the market and have a look. If you feel like you're, in a smaller organisation, we're not going to move to another small organisation. We're going to look for someone that's got bigger, that maybe has multiple partners within it, where you can have that opportunity. I think being clear in who you align with as well. So like go to other people's opens, go have a look at how their team run. I think is really important. So many of us don't go and see competitors or how they run and how they operate. Have conversations. I think so often we keep to these tiny bubble networks, whereas you can have conversations with, Joe down the road. You're going to find out a lot more about how the office runs, and not being scared to sort of, make friends with the enemies or whatever it is. You need to know your competition. You need to know your competition of how they work, but also, is that office going to be better for you in the long run? It could very well be. When you're in an organisation where there's, 4 or 5 directors already, everything's sort of set. And even as a good agent that's looking for that next step, it's going to take a while for you to then make that. Is it now time to move to an office where the opportunities there a bit sooner? You're still in your market, and it may be that your value proposition actually aligns a lot more. I think it's being willing to have those conversations and just say, is this going to be better for me long term?
And based on that, the conversation is very much around the people. I mean, the brand is the brand, but I see in the industry brands can mask a lot of things that once you get inside the door, it's certainly not what the brand may be representing to the marketplace.
And I think as well, on the flip side, if something goes wrong in a brand, you're also labelled as one, like a collective, rather than office specific, which doesn't always work.
So would your advice be to someone who is a junior property manager or a salesperson, and when I say junior, they're probably senior if they've done 3 years based on this conversation.
Exactly.
Would it be chase the money or chase the communications and the values of an organisation?
I think always chase the values and communications. I think the money comes with that. I think chasing who you actually align with is far more important than, having the carrot dangled and then, the goalpost keeps getting moved, forward and forward, because there's, this promise of the shiny ring at the end of the day, but it doesn't always go. So I think values, and you can see character as well through people once you start having conversations with them, how they operate. I think that's always going to come out on top.
And so if I was a junior coming to see, Amy at Absolute Best People, I'll get it right at some point.
Right.
And, your brand is terrific, but you're the name behind the brand that I pick up when I'm in need of some coaching myself and certainly great people. As a junior coming to you, what would be, if I was saying I want to be that high performer property manager or that high performer and I had a learning mindset, what would be the coaching that you would give me in looking for my career? Would it be, you've got to move now or take your time? And you've talked about, having lunch with the enemy, if you will.
Absolutely.
What would be just one specific piece of coaching you would offer me?
I think don't make rush decisions, because like if we're employing out of desperation, also taking a job out of desperation is just as bad. We don't get it right.
Yeah.
So I think if you're starting to have the thoughts of it might be time for a move, edge into it and look at it rather than, getting to the end and going, well, I've got to find a job now and you've got to make it like that. You're usually going to make the wrong decision.
Yeah.
So I think being quite thought out in, okay, like let me write it down, let me see what I'm actually thinking about, what are the things that are bothering me? Could it be a conversation with my employer? Have we had that conversation? Because it could be, internalized, oh, I can't move up here, where they've got big goals of, oh, we're buying a new rent roll or, whatever it might be. There is that. We just haven't had the conversation. So I'll always tell people, have the conversation with your employer first. And if they can't facilitate it, then let's make a plan on who we want to speak to. But I think having that open conversation is really important. And that clear sort of, well, where do I want to go and where do I want to be?
I certainly know that the team members that approach things with an open mindset before leaving seem to have a more established career wherever they go than when, and it's Friday or it's after hours and you get this bang resignation and you're like, oh,
great, thank you.
And just I would have loved to have been able to support you if I'd known, that there was something that wasn't working or if I'd known, and I often say if I don't know about it, that it's broken.
We can't fix it.
How can I fix it?
Exactly.
So there's certainly that element of it. But that's some really great advice.
Yeah. And I just think feeling comfortable enough, if you don't feel comfortable enough with your leaders to have an open conversation, there's probably a bigger overarching problem as well. Yeah. We should be able to have that conversation and know that there's not going to be ramifications at the end of it for wanting that. Yeah. And us as leaders, I think sometimes need to put the ego aside when people leave as well. I think we can find, it's sort of this, we don't own people. I think we're part of their journey. Yeah. And for a lot of leaders, they go, well, they left me. It's like we were actually just a part of their journey. Yeah. Did we shape it well? How are they remembering us? And, so many people come back to businesses as well. Yeah. I think giving candidates and employees the freedom to say, go try something new. You might love it or you might not. And then they come back. Yeah. But I think that speaks volumes as a leader rather than going, right, you're out the door or whatever it might be. Yeah. That's then what they remember.
So the saying grass isn't always greener, sometimes you just water your own.
Yes.
There's still a little bit of truth in the metaphor.
I think there is. There's sort of, you can water your own grass, but sometimes, you've got to take the leap to realise that it's not always greener and, keeping the door open and not burning bridges. We work in the smallest industry known to man. I think everyone knows everyone. So I think it's making sure that how you leave a business is just as important as how you come into it. Yeah. So then the door is open. Yeah. If you do sort of take the step and go, oh my gosh, what have I done? Yeah. You can always come back to where you did enjoy.
That's great. And I'm sitting here noticing a lot of similarities between relationships in friendship groups and partners as I am in. Do you see the traits of people that might have a number of partners or, friendship groups getting churned actually transcribes into the...
Very similarly, I think. I think the people that place value on long-term relationships are usually the ones that stay with businesses a long time. They want to grow within the business and they'll try everything that they can to make it work within that. Yeah. We're the ones that are sort of flippant with, right, I'm moving and I'm doing this. They're usually the ones that, uproot their lives, 3 times a year and try something new. And then they've got 17 different hobbies and I'm known for a hobby, so I can't talk with that. But it's sort of the ones that are like, right, let's reinvent, let's do this. But it's sort of like, okay, we've got to put some roots down somewhere. Yeah. And it's, finding those ones that are sort of happy to work with the company and know that there will be, ebbs and flows with how the company's going. And it's not always going to be smooth sailing either. But are they happy for the lulls as they are with the highs?
I often talk about that. In the good times, everyone wants to be there. Yeah. But you see the true character of people and your friends when you're in the lulls.
And that's the thing. I think the ones that stick by you through the hard times are going to be the ones that are always around.
So you've had an amazing journey, real estate, out of industry. Fun. Now you've started your own business. I don't actually know the difference between a business, a company and an organisation. I'm thinking it might be numbers and the like. So I've recently worked out the difference between a cemetery and a graveyard.
which is
it's quite interesting as I get older.
Very few.
The more I learn, the more I realise I don't know a lot. But
Yep.
it's been a journey for us, life in itself. What would be one of the most unexpected lessons that you've learned going out and starting a company, and you've got a business partner?
Yeah.
What would be one of the most unexpected lessons that sort of been like, wow?
Wow.
Yeah.
I think just having a newfound respect for people that start businesses. I don't think anyone can anticipate the risk and how hard it can be. And I think we often, as employees, look and go, well, why can't we do this and why can't we do that? And then once you own a business, you go, oh, there's actually way more to this and the risk, and, it usually pays off. But, it's sort of those risks that you don't even realize, and, all the costs associated with it and that sort of thing. I don't think anyone can actually prepare you for that.
Yeah.
And also as someone, like, I'm very much like, right, we're making it work, it's not going to fail, and sort of having that risk of, well, this very well could not work.
Yeah.
As much as I can do everything to try and make it work, there is that risk of that.
Yeah.
I think that was a big learning for me, to be like, whoa, like, this is in front of everyone and it could
absolutely.
not work.
Yeah.
That was a big thing for me. I was like, what if we fail? Then I'm like, maybe we softly launch into it. And then I think if I had my time over again, I'd just go gung-ho, stop worrying about what people think. And I think you really realise who your friends are as well through it.
Yeah. And it's so unique having your recruitment, but also the coaching element, which I think is missing in a lot of the industry.
Yeah.
Is there a particular event that happened for you that made you want to move into that coaching element and support piece in recruitment? Or is it just something that's naturally eventuated through getting the recruitment piece up?
So I think me having a coach who was actually my business partner, so she was my coach when I was in the industry, and I was like, wow, this really helps, having someone to keep me accountable, because I think it was sort of, you look back at sales and it was like, right, you'd have your highs, your lows, and I'm like, how do I get consistent? So having someone to hold me accountable, for me, I was like, okay, this is great. I need to look more into this. And it was sort of, the coaching was the way that I was going. And then when I left the industry and sort of did some research around recruitment and that sort of thing, was speaking to people, I was like, I feel like these two are very interlinked in where it sort of goes. I think we could make something of this. So there was sort of always that push for the coaching, and then the recruitment was the second part of it. But I think the two go really well hand in hand. And I think to actually get to know the candidates that you're putting in is super important. I think for a long time it was this sort of, throw something at the wall and hope it sticks with candidates.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Which was crazy to me, that we had an industry where people were putting people forward they hadn't even met or interviewed or spoken with. It was sort of just looking at a CV and hoping for the best. And we can all look a certain way on paper, but I think once you start talking to people, how people show up on interviews for me is really important. If you're sitting in a hoodie and we're on an interview, I'm not sure how you're turning up for work. So I think those sorts of things are so important, to be able to dig deeper into how someone's going to show up.
I think that's one of the biggest things I noticed dealing with recruiters or recruitment companies is that you know the difference between someone that's taken the time to screen and get to know them and know you and go, hang on, this is what it is. And I get the email, which is quite simply, hey, Mike, I think you should have
we need to see this person.
Have a chat, and then I get the ones that give you the sales pitch, the big blurb in the email, and I'll give them a quick call and sort of say, tell me about X. And they're like, hang on a second.
Yeah, let me just Google who they are.
Let me just find out who they are, and it's quite an interesting piece that has transpired.
And I think that's why it's so important for whichever business it is, if they are using a recruitment partner, to have a good relationship with them. So I can ring and say, hey, I just saw someone, you need to see them. Or likewise, you can ring me and say, hey, can you ring this person? Like, I think they're having a bit of trouble or whatever it is. It's a business relationship, so it should work like that. It shouldn't just be sort of the one transaction, hope it sticks, and never, we don't speak again.
Yeah, sure.
Because how then do we help grow the business and that sort of thing? And it also opens businesses to talent that they wouldn't have had exposure to either. So, it might be someone that's living out of area, but they're actually moving to the area. How are you going to get to know that person? Likewise, how are they going to know your business is the standout? So working with partners in the recruitment space, I think, is important, and having that good relationship to say, hey, this is what's going on.
And through learning candidates and knowing candidates, and I mean, being in the industry, you've got relationships with people in the industry. Is there something that if you had your magic wand and you could wave over the industry, all aspects, is there any particular thing that you think would support businesses, leaders, and the teams in general, which would make managing teams, people, that much better or easier?
It's a hard one. Look, I think if we didn't go through COVID, things would probably be a bit easier, but can't do that one. I think people management, having a better understanding of their people is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And I think just having empathy to their people. I think so often, employers can be a bit burnt by certain people. And so they put this exterior up of, right, like everyone needs to fit in. I pay them, so this is what I expect from them.
Yeah.
Whereas I think coming to people with a bit more empathy and finding out, well, why they're having a bad day, what's actually going on, I think it's just going to get us so much further with people than sort of leading with that, more authoritarian, this is how it should be.
Yeah.
So I think a bit more empathy for each other, to be honest, both ways.
Yeah.
But, why are people having a bad time?
Yeah.
It could, for what's a bad day for me, it could look like a good day for you.
Yeah.
But doesn't, diminish someone's having a bad day.
I must admit that prior to having children, my management skills were very much, we start at this time and we're doing it. And I did a lot of training in and around managing older people, and it was really the first time where you had multi-generations in one organisation. Yeah. So I was managing people who already had children. I didn't have them.
Yeah.
And it was sort of this hard, 9 o'clock means 9 o'clock. And then
this is when you're here.
This is when you're here and you do the job and you go home. And then being fortunate enough to have children, it really gave me an insight to the life outside of work. And now when someone goes to me, I had a rough night because they've got a 6-month-old or a 12-month-old or just, a flat out a 10-year-old that's been up all night, being
sick
unwell.
Or whatever it might be.
There's very much now, I get it, I understand.
You do what you need to do and get through it.
We'll see you if you need me to support you at any point now to get you for your day because, that's kind of that journey in life. But it's also at the same time the way that community shifted to where that 80s authoritarian dictatorship of do this or else has really kind of shifted to now that coaching position of.
And I think the nurturers are sort of the leaders that are coming out on top, the ones that sort of haven't had that hard, this is where we need to be, that have let their team grow, that, are compassionate, that listen, have understanding. Yeah. I think they've been the ones that have really shone through this time, whereas the other ones are sort of not getting left behind, but it's definitely not the sort of first point that people look at now and go, oh, I'd love to work there. Yeah. You've got to have some empathy, I think, to people and realise that life happens. Yeah. Like as much as we all love to think we are doing the hardest job in the world, I think there's a lot of harder jobs. And I think we actually have to take a step back and say, like, my version of hard is like not even half of what some people are doing. Yeah. So, just coming back to reality.
I have a little bit of a conversation with myself when I think I'm doing it hard. And I'll say, what would my grandfather say? Because he used to have to get up and light a fire to get hot water to be able to have a shower. And I simply walk in and go, blick.
I'm done. Yeah, I've just been stuck in traffic for 15 minutes and that's my hard day.
Yeah,
it's like nothing.
Well, you wouldn't have traffic.
Yeah, I don't have traffic where I am. We've got no traffic lights.
Yeah, well, that's a good place to be. Off topic, and it's something that I notice we're all talking about currently is AI and the buzzword of AI. Personally, I'm not overly concerned with AI. I think that it's somewhat similar to a new software coming out and that people aren't going to lose their jobs, but there's going to be a higher demand where we're expected to do more and that people are expecting a more polished review and a higher level of feedback. I think that Xero and Excel changed an industry quite drastically. Yeah. But real estate being about people, I'm noticing more emails are written with a structure of AI in it when they come through.
Absolutely.
To position themselves in a particular. What are your thoughts around AI in the industry and what do you honestly think the effects are going to be over the next 5?
Yeah, look, I think the people that do it really well, that utilize AI, to help with speed, but just to build it out. So am I still adding the personal touch change the Zs, make them S's. Like we know now what AI looks like. So I think making the personal touches to make it your own is really important. I think AI helps. So, you could put in something, analyze this or whatever it might be, utilize it, but don't use it verbatim. I think that's a big thing.
Yeah.
I think the ones that are going to notice it the most are, copywriters that, had it so good for so many years that we can now do this in a 3-second job.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be the ones that lose out. But in terms of real estate agents, I think pace is going to be the biggest thing. So the agents utilizing it for follow-up and, what programs can they use, things like Reader that, sieves to the top prospects and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
The ones using that sort of AI, I think, are going to come out on top rather than the ones that, just chat GPT a response and hope that sticks. Like someone knows that that's not how you talk.
Yeah.
So I think actually still being personable is probably going to be the biggest advantage when we are shifting to this AI world, really.
Yeah. And it's almost now a degree of, it's just AI, so it's got lesser weight than a thought through, well-versed, well-written.
Yeah. And I don't even think it needs to be as well-written when it's sort of actually personable and, they know that someone's actually written that to me. I think that goes further than just, a perfectly written AI email. People sort of think they didn't even have the time to think about it. So.
Yeah. And where we've seen social media start, and it all being perfect world and everything immaculate. And then you've seen almost this trend to real life, it's a live viewing.
Yeah.
And, people are recording things off their mobile rather than having, $50,000 setup. Do you think AI might move in that?
Well, yeah, when you
landscape?
See the way that the videos are, making, like you can do talking videos of yourself with AI and it's not even you talking and that sort of thing. Yeah. I think it's scary where it's going, but I think it will help with some things, especially, if people aren't confident with talking in front of cameras. I think it sort of gives that ability to be able to do it.
Yeah.
But I also think then we're taking away a skill set.
Yeah.
Where being able to talk in front of people is really important in our job.
Absolutely.
And we're then taking that away.
Yeah.
So I think use with caution would be my feelings with it.
So yes or no, is it going to change our industry?
I think it will improve, but I think people will always come out on top. So I think I'm even noticing people want to pick up the phone now and talk. So we're almost gone full circle. Yeah. We're back to where we started. Yeah. I want that human touch. Like I know myself, I want to be able to ring someone and talk to them.
Yeah.
I don't want to chat.
I was a dinosaur for wanting to do that.
I don't want to chat to a bot. I don't want to read a help page. I want to speak to someone. Yeah. And so I think, but being personable helps that as well. Not, flicking someone a text message to a response of theirs. Yeah. I think picking up the phone is always going to come out on top.
Yeah. So, of course, thanks, Amy, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a lot of insight into the recruitment piece, leading teams, and certainly the industry overall.
Yeah.
Before we sign off, I just wanted to dive into just one specific side in what you're saying, and that's your offering with the recruitment and the coaching side of it. And are you finding that there is more of an uptake in the coaching side of things now with your recruiters or clients that you're then putting into organisations? Is that part of what you offer?
Yeah.
So I come to you and say, look, Amy, I'd love to go and work at Love&Co, of course.
Yep. The best agency,
obviously. The best agency. But certainly, could I take on a coaching pack with you?
Yeah.
Or how does give me a little bit of insight of how I could do that?
Absolutely.
Or as a business owner, working with you and saying, Amy, as we're looking to grow inside of Love&Co, how does that coaching side of it work?
Yeah, so we do different packages. So as part of the recruitment piece, coaching is included for the employee that gets put in the business. Yeah. We also do separate coaching, so business coaching, mentoring as well. And then we do psychometric testing. So anyone that sort of follows DISC profiling, EQ, emotional intelligence and driving forces, we facilitate those as well. So we can mix and match to how you want it. We can also run like seminar sessions as well. So it might be, right, we just want you in twice a year. Let's, really G up the team. It could be around new financial year, end of year, keeping them all, relevant and that sort of thing. Yeah. We can really mix and match those sorts of things.
Yeah. And I think it's absolutely the right topic unique to have someone like yourself in having a podcast on growing and developing strong teams, because there aren't a lot of recruitment officers that offer that training.
And I think that's where we sort of wanted to be somewhat different in the market. And I think, look, it's taken us probably longer to find businesses that align with that and that really appreciate the coaching, but the ones that, you know, get it. And, you know, I think the ones that sort of look over that are going to be the ones that, you know, potentially do get left behind or aren't willing to sort of look at their business in a different lens. I think we're all worried about critique and that sort of thing, but it's the only way to grow. And so, you know, we come in and we have a look overview and say, look, I think these are some really easy wins that we could look at fixing because I think it's going to attract a better quality candidate. And so, you know, for all businesses, I think we want to be looking at how do we attract the best for us and we can sort of give you a bit of an oversight of that.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
With the psychometric testing, I mean, it sounds a bit scary.
Yes.
How does that get played out for the listeners that, you know, this is the first time they've heard of being psychometric tested?
Yeah, absolutely.
But how do you go about that? Is that where I sit in a room in a white jacket
I was going to say,
and rock? Or?
It sounds scarier than it is. So it's a lot of online testing, so lots of questions, but it's more of a management tool. So for me, like I'm very high D, high red. It's sort of a direct personality. And so you read that on paper and go, oh, she's a nightmare. But then you sort of balance it with a bit of emotional intelligence and that sort of thing. So but from a management point of view, I can then look at myself and go, she's probably not the one that I dictate to or that sort of thing, because that's not going to be how we can best manage her. And so from a management point of view, it'll give you the styles of how you can manage that candidate as well. So how they best respond to things, how they, you know, are under stress as well. So it'll give you questions around how you respond naturally versus while you're at work and while you're under stress and that sort of thing. So if I say, you know, I'm an avoidant person under stress, well, we know that as a manager, I've got to over-communicate to that person because they're probably not going to come to me. So I think it just gives us really vital tips where, you know, maybe someone's not as forthcoming with that information. We can then manage them better.
Yeah, that's great.
So I think it's good as well to have as part of the team as well to know where everyone sits and why everyone is the way that they are. I think we inherently are ourselves, and, you know, as much as we'd like to fake it at work and that sort of thing, you can't sort of fake those personality traits.
And having that insight to help support people to be the best that they can be is just wonderful, because I know even within myself, from time to time we'll have a conversation and I'm like, I'm not sure how to get this across. And communication is all about the other person understanding, not about how I'm delivering, but are they listening and learning and developing and changing behaviour.
And how do they best learn as well? How do they best retain things? So it might be, you know, we've got to follow it up with an email. They might take notes. I think, you know, we'll go, well, why are they taking notes with everything? It's how they learn. That's actually okay. So learning to, communicate differently to different people, I think, is really important.
Yeah, that's great.
Have you ever done your personality?
I haven't done my personality.
I'll have to look at it.
Actually, I tell a lie. I've done some leadership courses where they have done testing, except I can't remember what they all are. There was a Myers-Briggs I did. I think that's psychometric.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of others. But I also think that they can evolve. And who I am now is very different to who I was. That was pre-children. And now it's after children. But I'd be very interested in doing that with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also as almost as a requirement for any of our leaders, so that you know when communicating with me, hey, Mike, you're a little bit of a X, Y, and Z, not a bad word, but
nothing's bad in that as well. I think people often think it's like, I have to pass this test and I have to be this, and it's like there's no wrong answers.
Play to the strengths.
Exactly.
But I think I'd certainly be open to the idea of undertaking that. One, to understand your services, but two, also you can support me in ensuring that we're putting the right people underneath me and with me so that our organisation can grow.
And I think thrive as well. You know, if we've got 5 of the same person leading, we're in trouble. So we've got to have a bit of diversity as well.
A little bit of diversity. But it's been an interesting conversation.
Thank you.
It's been very inspiring, and I've learned a lot. So thank you for all your time.
Thank you.
And just before we sign off, tell me what's next for yourself. What's next for Amy Carr, and what can I expect to see you doing over the next 12?
So for us, it's constantly growing and evolving. My business partner and I are looking into some further training around the psychometric testing and coaching as well. So watch this space for some new exciting things around that, and lots more on the recruitment piece as well.
Well, I'm certainly excited to see and hear, and no doubt we'll talk in the course of all of that unfolding.
Absolutely.
So congratulations
Thank
on
you.
what is a great brand, a great business, and thank you for all your support to
Thank
our
you.
organisation. It's a pleasure working with you.
We love
and
working with you.
Absolutely an honour to have you in here on our second episode
Exactly.
of Love at First Sight. So, yeah, all the best for 2026.
Thank you. You too.
No worries.